Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and today we're talking about a new game, Dragon Quest Treasures. This game is the latest spin-off title based on the renowned JRPG franchise, Dragon Quest, as you may have figured. The game is releasing on December 9th on the Nintendo Switch, and Square Enix, who developed and published the title, have asked me to take a look at it ahead of its release. So this video will cover my early experiences and impressions with the game's first few hours. Please note this video is sponsored, but Square Enix gave me complete creative control to do whatever video I wanted. I could have just thrown together a gameplay video if I wanted to, but I like to talk about the details, so that's why I'm doing this kind of format. The sponsor status of the video has no impact on my opinions, as hard as that may be to believe. If you've been around the channel before, you know that that's the truth, but I totally understand any skepticism. Anyway, I'm putting off collecting treasure to make this video, so let's get to it. Dragon Quest Treasures starts as soon as you boot up the game, something I always enjoy, introducing you to our main protagonists, Erik and Mia. Fans of the Dragon Quest series in recent years may recognize these two as younger versions of themselves from another game. They are simply children here with a serious hankering for treasure hunting. Within no time at all that intense desire leads them into the mysterious world of Draconia, where they must battle rival treasure gangs to claim their riches and uncover the truth behind why they were even brought there in the first place. One thing to note is that the game does have voice acting. Some scenes are fully voice acted, while others usually sport the characters saying maybe a line or two out of their total dialogue, while you'll have to read the rest. It's certainly welcome all the same. And again, it's nice that the game wastes almost no time getting you into the game itself, and the tutorials I found were quick and efficient. It does take an hour or two to really get the ball rolling on some of the more important features, but it is a steady stream of objectives and gameplay learning that helps the early game pacing a lot. The graphic style is also in line with what you'd expect from Dragon Quest, albeit a lower graphical fidelity than Dragon Quest XI. Fortunately, the game runs smoothly, at least about what you'd expect for the Nintendo Switch. Load times are mostly only about 4 seconds or so, though some longer ones pop up later when you start exploring the more open areas. As you progress the story, you'll eventually come to lead your own gang of treasure hunters made up of characters and monsters you've met along the way. Your goal is to find treasures as you explore several open environments to increase the rank of your team and improve your facilities. This gameplay loop is a constant thread of go to an island and explore freely, collect as many treasures as you can carry, return and appraise your loot, and do it all over again as your crew gets stronger and stronger. There are a mix of other objectives, such as opening up new travel options or completing a variety of quests to earn new rewards and ways to fight, and the game was consistently introducing me to more and more of these options as I progressed. I definitely felt like I had to commit to a goal when venturing out, lest I get too distracted and not complete what I set out to do at all in the first place. Sounds familiar for other JRPG fans, I imagine. While exploring the islands, you won't just be looking for treasure. There are monsters to fight, ingredients that you can collect to cook, and materials you can collect to craft with. You want to pick the islands clean for these materials to assist you in your adventures and, of course, level up. Erik and Mia are mildly capable in combat in the early game, though they lack the skills you may expect from their older counterparts in the main games. They have a number of basic attacks, a dodge roll, and the ability to shoot pellets from their slingshot, which is for some reason called the catapult. The pellets seem to be the primary method of dealing with most opponents, as there are so many things the pellets can do. Different damage types, support, they do pretty much everything that isn't swing a dagger, so you're going to have to get used to both shooting them at enemies and allies depending on what kind of pellet you've got loaded up. I definitely would have liked some more direct combat options. I definitely prefer to get into the thick of things, and maybe that will open up later, and I just haven't gotten into that option yet. You can actually get Erik or Mia to power up using a gauge, but you can also use this gauge on very powerful ally attacks. So I was always torn, most of the time using it on monster attacks as opposed to using it just to swing my dagger or run around a little bit faster. Since they're a bit too young to handle this adventure on their own, Erik and Mia can recruit the monsters you fight to join your party. By defeating enemies, you may get the option to recruit them back in your base at the cost of some money or specific materials. The various Dragon Quest monsters you find all have different skills that help with combat, traversal, and even finding more valuable treasure. Recruit as many as possible, mix and match your team frequently, and even send them out on dispatch missions to find materials or treasure on their own. One point I think could use some toning back in all of this, though, is the frequency with which AI allies express themselves. Some of them just grunt or make a sound, and it's not so bad, but many of them have spoken dialogue, which they will repeat every 10 to 15 seconds or so, and that can get quite tiresome. As you're exploring, you'll be able to track treasure using your Fortune Finder ability. This points you in the rough direction of the nearest loot, with the finder functioning more potently depending on who's on your team and what treasures you're actually tracking. Once you're standing within a short distance of the treasure, the Fortune Finder instead shows you visions of its exact locations courtesy of your teammates. Deduce the final location with these 3 images, loot it up, and continue on. The treasures you find on islands themselves are also carried by your monster friends until you return to base. However, this treasure can be knocked off of them when they are hit by enemy attacks, so you'll find that you're on cleanup duty not infrequently. Given that any and all treasure looting requires you to hold down the A button and then plays a short scene once you've actually picked it up, I would have liked for this aspect to be speedier, especially in more dangerous situations out in the world. If you don't pick up the treasure quick enough, you will lose it, so there is a lot of pressure to do this while you're in the middle of an intense fight. Now, when you feel comfortable with what you've found, you can return home to get the treasure appraised and actually gain all of the money you would get from collecting it. You'll either need to travel back to the nearest train station or use a Chimera Wing item to instantly return. Once you're back, you'll be given the value of anything you collected, a bonus based on how many treasures you actually collected on that singular mission, and your vault's value will increase, subsequently increasing your crew's rank. You can only have one of each treasure in the game, so it always prioritizes the most valuable version of it that you own. You can even put them on display and your crew may secretly polish them, which improves their value and your vault. The end goal is to complete the main quest and uncover the location of 7 Dragon Stones, while also dealing with the rival treasure hunters. This gives you access to a number of events and even a dungeon laden with clues on where to find them. You can focus on this goal, or just do all the various side quests and treasure hunts to distract yourself for hours. Totally didn't happen to me when I was making this video. Yeah, it did. Speaking of which, there are online functions that I didn't get the chance to test, such as the ability to send replicas of your treasure out to other players' worlds so that they can collect them, or even search for treasure sent to you in the same manner. This doesn't risk your treasures in any way or cost you anything. And I really mean doesn't cost you anything. You don't even need Nintendo Online services to use these features, so they can only make things easier for you. Now, while there are a lot more specific details to cover, monster skills, medals, which are equipment, and actual crafting, the gist of all this stuff should be intuitive if you've played a JRPG before. Heck, if you've played video games in recent years, these systems are simple and easy to understand, so I don't need to touch upon them too much. Overall, I had a good time for the first few hours I got to play. It has a few faults. I mentioned the monster dialogue repeating a lot, the long treasure pickup animations, but the pacing of feature unlocks really kept the early game going strong for me. The gameplay loop is simple, and it itches that I need to pick everything up feeling, those type of endorphins that I so frequently succumb to. Then on top of that, exploring the numerous open areas, which you have a ton of freedom to explore, recruiting new teammates, and completing quests all feels rewarding. You even get some treasures from that stuff if you're not as into exploring and getting treasures from other methods. And while I do wish I had more direct combat options as Mia or Eric, the few elements you can control do have impact on other gameplay elements, such as survival or recruitment. So you are incredibly responsible, you're just going to be shooting those pellets a lot. Now, if you're a Dragon Quest fan, the nostalgic art style and frequent references to other entries in the franchise will likely feed your soul some good feels. I mean, listen to this sound that plays in the game. It should sound familiar. Now, if you're already a fan of the Dragon Quest franchise, the nostalgic art style, the sound effects, the frequent references to other entries in the franchise, and of course, Dragon Quest's tried and true stick to what we know formula feeds your soul some good feels. Even if this action element does change quite a few things, it still very much feels like a Dragon Quest game. I mean, listen to this. Just listen to this menu sound. Now, for people looking on as fans of JRPGs, but maybe have only played a Dragon Quest game or haven't played any, well then, first of all, you should probably become familiar with Dragon Quest. It is one of the granddaddies of JRPGs. But second of all, just get to know the gameplay elements before making a decision. Treasure hunting is core to the experience, so if doing that while exploring and battling tickles your fancy, you're probably in for a good time as well. And that's going to be a wrap for my early/first impressions of Dragon Quest Treasures. Thanks again to Square Enix for sponsoring the video and giving me the opportunity to check the game out early. And if you want to see more, I am going to be live streaming the game on December 9th when it officially releases on the Nintendo Switch. So come check out more gameplay. And if you missed the stream, then be sure to check out the VOD over on the Twitch channel. I'm sure you're going to want to see as much as possible before making a decision. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. And until then, take care.